What if the biggest game of 2026 isn't GTA 6? What if the real surprise comes from a studio most people only know for an MMO, and suddenly drops one of the most ambitious open-world games ever made? Because right now, Crimson Desert is starting to look like the kind of game that could absolutely steal the spotlight this year. Massive world, insane combat, flying dragons, castle sieges, physics systems everywhere. And the weird part? It almost looks too ambitious to be real. So today we're going to talk about what Crimson Desert actually is, why people compare it with GTA 6, and why this game might become the biggest surprise of the year. You're watching BO3GG Gaming. Let's dive in. First things first. Crimson Desert is an open-world action RPG developed by Pearl Abyss, the studio behind Black Desert Online. Now, if you played Black Desert, you already know one thing about this studio. They know how to make games that look ridiculously good. Back in 2014, Black Desert Online dropped, and people were like, wait, this is an MMO? The animations, the combat, the visuals, it looked way ahead of its time. And financially, the Black Desert franchise has reportedly generated over $2 billion. So Pearl Abyss isn't exactly a small indie studio experimenting with its first project. They have the money, they have the tech, and apparently they decided to use all of that to build a gigantic single-player open-world game. And it's not just gigantic, it's absurdly big. The first thing you notice when watching Crimson Desert gameplay is the scale. The world is massive. Mountains, deserts, forests, cities, castles, floating islands. And the developers claim something very important. If you see something in the distance, you can go there. That's always a dangerous promise in game marketing, but from the gameplay demos we've seen so far, it actually looks legit.
What?
And traversal is also wild. You can travel using horses, gliders, grappling hooks, dragons, even mechanical mounts. So the game isn't just a big map. It's designed to make moving through the world fun, which is honestly something a lot of open world game developers forget, like Ubisoft. Now let's talk about the thing that really caught people's attention: the combat system. Because Crimson Desert doesn't look like a slow RPG where you poke enemies with a sword for 30 seconds. This thing looks closer to Devil May Cry meets Shadow of the Colossus. You can parry, grapple enemies, throw them, use environmental objects, combine melee attacks with magic, and that's even not the whole list. The fights look aggressive. Enemies swarm you. Bosses require mechanics. Sometimes you even have to interact with the environment to defeat them, or otherwise, you will lose. At one point, you literally climb a giant stone boss and break pieces of its armor. In another, you climb onto the boss's back and beat him while he jumps around on the walls. And this is just some of them. The studio already promised that there will be a lot of them in the game. Like really a lot. The next thing people noticed is the ridiculous number of systems.
Guys, it's too much! Excuse me, it's too much!
Crimson Desert seems to have castle sieges, mount combat, crafting, hunting, fishing, cooking, alchemy, base building, pet systems, side activities, and even mini-games. At some point, you start watching gameplay and thinking, wait, are they just putting every mechanic ever into one game? You can even glide from high cliffs, like in The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah, the game definitely takes inspiration from other titles. But honestly, most great games do. Here's another interesting part. Crimson Desert isn't using Unreal Engine. It runs on Pearl Abyss's own Black Space engine, which allows for things like massive draw distances, dynamic weather, realistic cloth simulation, detailed physics interactions, volumetric fog, real-time ray tracing, and it's just the beginning. Apparently, some early builds were already running 4K at 60 FPS on high-end hardware. But will the final game actually run that well on release? We'll see. Because if there's one thing modern gaming has taught us, it's that graphics and optimization rarely arrive at the same time. So where does GTA 6 come into this conversation? Well, obviously, GTA 6 will still be the biggest release of the year, no question. But the reason Crimson Desert is getting compared to it is ambition. Both games aim to create massive, highly detailed worlds full of systems and freedom. But Crimson Desert might actually offer something GTA doesn't: pure mechanical depth, complex combat, fantasy exploration, huge boss fights. Basically, GTA 6 will dominate culturally, but Crimson Desert might dominate gameplay conversations. And that's where things get interesting. Of course, there's also a very real possibility that this game collapses under its own ambition. Because we've seen this story before. Huge promises, insane gameplay trailers, and then launch day arrives and... yeah, you know how that goes. But if Pearl Abyss actually manages to pull this off, Crimson Desert could easily become one of the biggest gaming surprises in years. And maybe, just maybe, the game that nobody expected to challenge GTA 6 for Game of the Year. We'll see on March 19th. But now, I'm curious what you think. Is Crimson Desert actually the next big open-world masterpiece? Or is this another case of a game trying to do way too much? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, because if this game really turns out to be insane, we're definitely going to talk about it again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.